Mary Spencer has been a culinary instructor for over 20 years. Her professional cooking career began when she donated charitable auction dinners and cooking classes to downtown Detroit YMCA and the Northville Parks and Recreation. These dinners were a tremendous success and encouraged Mary to become a professional culinary instructor. By way of background, Mary learned to cook from attending some 200 cooking seminars from acclaimed chefs, including Jacques Pepin, Milos Chikla, Nicholas Malgeri. She has taught cooking classes at a number of Metro Detroit cooking equipment stores, including Kitchen Glamour, Kitchen Witch, Scotty's Kitchen, and ABC Warehouse. She is presently the owner of Taste, a Cook's Place LLC, a cooking school, and Cook's Resource Center situated in Plymouth, Michigan. Mary has also conducted numerous classes for corporations, service organizations, and individuals. She has been a guest lecturer at the U of M Sociology Department and Michigan State University. Her class repertoire includes over 1,000 class-tested cooking presentations covering a wide range of topics. Her personal library holds over 5,500 cookbooks. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. And one of my favorite topics is holiday entertaining. And I think I've chosen a couple recipes for you today that I think are totally doable. These are recipes that you're not going to slave over in your kitchen. And I think they're delicious and perfect for, your holiday parties, your get-togethers, whatever it is, however you celebrate the holidays. So we're going to start off with a stuffed mushroom dip. We're so busy at the holidays. Why stuff your mushrooms? Just have a dip. I love to have like a table with just a lot of dips, cold and hot, and, different things, like a charcuterie board of dips. A lot of different things to dip them in. And, I think that's just, people love choices. And I think when you set up choices on things like that on appetizers, it doesn't have to be fancy handheld appetizers, but, just something where they can, really see what you're giving them and having a lot of choices. I think they enjoy that. So we're going to do a stuffed mushroom dip, which is really, really, it's easy and it's really delicious. The other thing I thought about what dessert I wanted to do. And I think one of my favorite desserts to do around the holidays is a cheesecake, because cheesecakes they can be pretty simple as far as the way how they're made, but they look spectacular. They look like you slaved over them for weeks. So and they could be made ahead. So cheesecakes are totally doable ahead of time. Which it's a week before Christmas. You could make this. Pop it in your freezer even, and then you've got it for the holidays. So let's start off right now with I'm going to get my stovetop hot. We're going to start off with our stuffed mushroom dip. And now this can be done totally vegetarian, or you can do this with the meat that I'm just using some Italian sausage. And whatever you want to use, you're absolutely, welcome to use it. I know that you get a lot of people around the holidays, who are vegetarian or don't eat meat. And that is a good thing to have one thing to offer them where they don't have meat in it. It gives them a little bit more choices, and it tastes just as good without the sausage. So, I think, go for it if that's how you want to do it. I'm getting my pan nice and hot. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil to the pan, and to the olive oil, I'm going to add just some bulk Italian sausage. You can do sausage in the casing. Just remove it from the casing. Hot, fennel, whatever you want, whatever kind of Italian. If you don't want to do Italian sausage, do bratwurst. Do Polish sausage. Honestly, there is no end to what you can do with this. So I'm going to add my this is my Italian sausage, my bulk, and we're just going to let this start to saute. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is I have a little, whoops, I forgot that I have this on. Sorry, I put the wrong burner on, guys. No wonder it's not getting hot. I put the burner on that I use all the time for cooking, and I forgot that I had the wrong burner on. So sorry. Anyway, back to my sausage. I'm going to get this nice and just, chunk it up a little bit in the pan and let this saute for a minute. I am going to take at this point, I am going to take some panko breadcrumbs. This is going to be our topping for our sausage, our whole dip once the dip is done. So I have some panko breadcrumbs. Panko I like to use because they're crunchier. Panko has an actual crunch to them, as opposed to regular breadcrumbs, which do not have that crunchiness in that's involved in them. So I like to use panko for this, and I always use panko for things that are on the outside of things. So as a coating for things that are fried, or as a or things like that, where you know that you're using panko. If you're using breadcrumbs as a filling for something, it's better to use plain breadcrumbs, just because it's not they're not you're not going to know that they're panko or not if you're using it as a filling. You don't need things on the inside of a meatloaf to be crunchy. Panko is different when you need it on the outside. I'm going to add some melted butter to my panko, and this will be for my topping that we're going to put on our dip once it is done, so that we can pop it in the oven. Okay, so this at this point is nice and mixed. I'm going to add a little parsley later on when we're ready for it. I'm getting this nice and sauteed. The reason I don't use the burners on this side of my stove is because they are a little slower. So they drive me crazy, guys. I'm just not I like things to be hot and fast, and sometimes it just drives me crazy to have things not so hot and not so fast. Okay. I am using regular button mushrooms for this. You can totally use cremini mushrooms. You can use portobellos and chop them up. Some of the mushrooms that you find in the stores nowadays will have maybe just a little bit more flavor than like a cremini, a button does. I don't know. I'm so used to button mushrooms that for me, I don't mind them. I find that they're tasty. They have a lot of flavor in and of themselves, so I don't mind them. Okay. I'm going to let this sausage get a little bit more brown, and then we're going to add a little bit of, I'm going to put this aside. We're going to add a little bit of garlic to this. My garlic out. And I've got some chopped garlic here. Now, I love garlic. So for me, I'm going to add a good deal of garlic. And that's going to go right into my dip. Okay. So I have my garlic, my sausage sauteing nicely. And once that kind of starts to turn more brown, I will add my mushrooms. So I always tell people, one of the things that I like to tell people is that you really, really have to wash your mushrooms. Mushrooms are really, really dirty. They are grown in dirt, and a lot of mushrooms are grown in manure. So I really, really like to wash my mushrooms, and I mean like putting actual water to your mushrooms, because that thought of where they're grown, and they'll come to you nice and white sometimes, like they look like they're not really dirty, but give them that at least a little bit of a wash. And the way that I like to do it is I fill a bowl with hot water, a nice big bowl with hot water, put my mushrooms in, not hot water, I'm sorry, cold water, and I put my mushrooms in the bowl with the cold water, and I just take my hands and swish them to get that dirt off, just like putting your hands in and just kind of giving them a rub. Then I remove them. Don't pour them out. Remove them like this with your hands. Put them in a separate bowl, and then if they are really, really dirty, do it again. Now, if your mushrooms are really, really fresh, they will not absorb the water, so you don't have to worry about them getting saturated with water. Fresh mushrooms will be able to tolerate that little bit of washing you give them. I threw away my mushroom brush a long time ago, probably back in the 80s. But the mushroom brush they sold as a way to kind of remove the dirt on a mushroom without you having to put water to it. But honestly, guys, I just feel better washing them. So anyway, that is my big speech on washing mushrooms. I just find that to me is really, really important. So now my sausage is nice and brown, okay? And I'm going to add my mushrooms to this. Now at this point, I'm just adding all my mushrooms, and I kind of gave them a rough chop. So what I did was I just sliced them, and then I kind of, made another cut right across the top of each one of them, so they they were in smaller pieces. I'm not having giant pieces of mushroom for reasons being that when somebody dips them, you don't want them to be hanging over your bread or whatever. You don't want them hanging out of your mouth. Remember that you know, appetizers are meant to be kind of tidy little things. They're not meant to be sloppy. They're not meant to drip all over you when you are, when you're walking around with a little glass and you take a bite of something. It's not meant to be splattered everywhere. It's meant to be kind of a very, very tidy little parcel that whets your appetite. That's the purpose of an appetizer. It whets your appetite, meaning that it's supposed to be something very flavorful, very savory. Can be sweet. Appetizers can be sweet too, but they're meant to kind of make your taste buds start to flow so that you want the rest of the meal. Okay, so that you're thinking to yourself, this can't be all of it. I need more. So my mushrooms, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let these cook, and I'm going to let them cook until most of the water evaporates from the mushrooms. Mushrooms are really a lot of liquid in them. And you want to make sure that when you saute them, you want to make sure that a lot of that liquid goes away, because once that liquid goes away, you're going to have very, very tasty mushrooms. They will not become real tasty until the liquid evaporates from them and they become caramelized. Okay, so once you don't have any more liquid in your mushrooms, you're going to let them caramelize in the pan and they're going to become much more flavorful. All right, so we're just going to let those cook just like this, okay, in my pan. And in the meantime, we're going to kind of switch gears, and I'm going to go do my crust for my cheesecake. Now, I made a cheesecake ahead of time for you guys. I made a kind of a bigger cheesecake. So I'm making one to show you guys. It's going to be a little bit of a smaller version, but you can do that. So say you want to take a cheesecake somewhere, you want to take it as a gift, you want to make cheesecakes as gifts, you can do that. They're selling these pans that are absolutely wonderful, these little springform pans. You can get them really, really small. I mean, I've gotten them really small where you can make a cheesecake in your Instant Pot, which really is nice. But if you make little ones like this, you can pull them out, decorate them, wrap them up, and give them as a gift too. I mean, who doesn't love something homemade as a gift at some point, right? So I like to do that myself. I think that's a nice thing to be able to do. I am going to keep stirring my mushrooms because I don't want them to burn. So as I'm doing this, we're going to keep stirring. And what I have here is some chocolate Oreo cookies, just basically Oreo cookies, guys. And honestly, it didn't occur to me, but you might even be able to use those little red ones that they're selling now for the holidays. They're selling red ones. You could use those kind of like as the base for your cake, and it would make them look kind of pretty, like that real pretty what do you call it? Kind of give it that little red look, like a pepperminty kind of look.
What size is your springform pan? What size is it? 4 or 6?
This is, I believe, oh my gosh, don't quote me. I think this is about a 4 inch. I think because I used an 8 inch. Let me see. This is a 4 inch, 4 or 5 inch, something like that. Don't quote me on it. I'd have to measure it, guys. The problem is they don't put it on the bottom anymore. They used to put the information on the bottom. They don't do that. So I think this is probably, maybe it's a 5, could be 5 inch maybe. So, really, you could do 4 inch, you can do 3, whatever. I'm just taking this and basically we're going to put my melted butter into it, okay? And you can use salted butter if you want. You can use I'm using regular unsalted butter because that's kind of what I cook with to begin with. When you put your Oreo cookies into your food processor, do not take the white parts. Don't take the cream out of them. I was silly, and when I was first started cooking and using Oreo cookies as a crust, I would take all the cream out of the Oreos and then put them in my food processor. It really doesn't matter. It actually helps to kind of keep them moist. So just throw the whole cookie in there and let it go, and just let it puree or let it pulverize so that it becomes really, really, really really, really fine crumbs.
So
There are
Mary,
other things. Yes.
your recipe, is this the recipe, the amount for this size pan? Or is it, do we
This
have
is the
to?
amount, the recipe, and the recipe that I've given you is the size for an 8-inch springform pan.
Okay, so
Okay, so
half of the recipe then.
yeah,
For a
half
small
of
one.
this is half of it. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, and I kind of thought that'd be a little confusing, but to be honest with you, so just think of the one that I made is the one that your recipe fits. And then this is half of everything, well, half the version. So the Oreo cookies would be 12 cookies. Okay, perfect. 12 cookies works. All right. So there are other cookies you can use too. You don't have to use shortbread. You could use, I mean, Oreos. You could use shortbread cookies. You could use animal crackers. Vanilla wafers work really well. I mean, there are graham crackers. If you're a graham cracker nut and you love graham crackers in your cheesecake, by all means, use that. Don't use the Oreos. I like the chocolatiness in this cheesecake because I think it kind of offsets the sweetness of the peppermint and the flavors of the peppermint. So that's one of the reasons that I like that. So it is really totally up to you. This is your cheesecake. Do what you want with it, right? So now I am going to pour this into my pan. All right. And spray your pan a little bit with some cooking spray if you want. You can butter it with a little bit of butter. That works too. And then what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to get my hands really, really dirty, I'm going to use a little Ziploc bag. And we're just going to kind of press these in with a little Ziploc bag. I'm going to take all the rest off of my little spatula here. All right, so we'll just use this as kind of my little press bag here. And then I'm just going to press this. I always press it up the sides just a little bit. I mean, I don't want to press it up too much because I don't want that big, crust going up the side of my cake. I want people to see the cheesecake part of the cake, okay? So basically, and I'll show you as soon as I'm done pressing this guy, we'll get that. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So I'm going to press this pretty compactly, okay? And then what I have here, so I don't know if you guys can see this really well, but okay, good. So, you can see that it's gone about, maybe up the side about that far, okay? So not really far, but, I'm just a little bit so that, you don't have that filling running underneath your cheesecake. You want it on top, okay? So we're going to put this aside. This is not a cheesecake that you need to pre-bake the crust, which is nice because it makes it a little bit easier, a little faster, okay? So my mushrooms are doing beautifully. They are releasing their moisture. And I am actually seeing some browning on the mushrooms. So that's good. The mushrooms will not brown until the moisture is gone. So you kind of have to think of it that way. They will not brown in your in your pan until that moisture leaves. Okay. So once you kind of see that moisture escape, you should be good to go. So this is what I want to happen. I want to see that brown on the mushrooms. I hope you guys can see that. That's where they start to really take on flavor and to caramelize, and which really makes them good. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to this, just a little bit at first. We'll season the whole thing in a little bit later. All right. And then I am going to add a little bit of, now that I think that this is pretty good here, you guys can see that, they've shrunk quite a bit. They are nice and brown. I'm doing real good on this. It takes a good 8 minutes or so for this to happen. So, I don't want to take up your time on this because you'll see that this is exactly how this should look. I am going to use some cream cheese. This is Philadelphia cream cheese. I like to use Philadelphia because I like the flavor of it. Honestly, if you like another brand or you like one that is a little bit lower in fat, please use that. That works for me. Anything you want as far as your recipe, as long as you think it's going to taste good. Absolutely. Recipes are meant to be customized to your liking, not necessarily to the way that I want you to have it taste. Okay. So that's really, I think it's really important. You don't want, I'm not going to be eating your food. You are. I mean, really. So that is kind of the way that I feel about it. I'm going to use a little bit of grated Parmesan. We're going to throw some grated Parm in here. All right. And I have also um, some half and half we're going to throw in. You don't want to throw in Parm. You can throw in Asiago. That works. Romano works. Any of those cheeses will work really well. Okay. So this is going to be tossed in and mixed. Now I've got this nice little concoction here. So if I was making stuffed mushrooms, I would probably take the stems and maybe a few of the mushrooms, cut them up, make the same dip, stuff them back in the mushroom, and then, and then bake them. But you know what? I think this is a lot easier. And sometimes, especially now when you've got so much going on, I think it works really well. Okay. So we've got Parmesan. We're going to pour in a little bit of half and half. I don't do anything more than half and half, only because this is it's pretty rich with the cream cheese and the Parmesan and everything else that you got going in it. I would stay away from, making it super rich. You don't want people to kind of look at it and go, oh my gosh, there's a lot of calories in that. And, I know it's the holidays, but people still sometimes have that thought process. So I get it, guys. I get it. All right, so this now, I'm just going to wait for for my half and half to kind of thicken. All right, and that's happening as we speak. All right, and then I'm going to season this. So I seasoned a little bit before. I'm going to season a little salt, a little pepper, and then let's give this a taste so that we know that it is seasoned properly. And I'm going to grab a little casserole dish, something pretty for the holidays. If this is the time to bring out those special dishes that maybe you bought, and, last Christmas after Christmas was over, everybody's done that, and bring those out and use them for your holiday entertaining. All right, and this is a perfect dish for that. So I'm just going to throw this in here just like this. And, when you do a dip like this, you want this to kind of stay all on one level. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want this to be so deep that I'm going to turn the heat off on this. Move that. I want this to kind of be, not real. Dip shouldn't be like really thick. Dip should be thinner so that when you dip it, you get all that, any gooiness on the top, any caramelized, taste on the bottom. And then, you want them to taste good all in one swoop. Okay. And that's kind of how I think about it, guys. So now I'm going to chop a little bit of parsley. Okay. Just some fresh parsley. Because you know what? When you do stuffed mushrooms, you always garnish with a little bit of parsley. All right. Now I'm going to toss this in my oven, which is set at 400 degrees. Now this dip can be frozen. If you are going to make it and you're not ready to, to make it and serve it, you want to make it 3 days ahead, you can freeze it, pop it right into your oven frozen. You don't even have to thaw it or anything. And then you should be all set to go. Okay. So we're going to mix our little panko with this. And our panko should brown as it kind of sits. Let me get this back here. I can show you. When I put a topping on something, guys, this is how I do it. I just put the topping on like this. And then I just kind of use my fingers to spread it. Put it right in the middle. So you got the whole thing right in the middle. And then spread it just like that. Okay. So there is my dip. To me, it looks like, stuffed mushrooms, but without the work. Okay. So, stuffed mushrooms without all the fuss. I'm going to pop this in my oven. So if you'll excuse, because it's on the other side, if you'll excuse me for 1 minute, I'll be right back. All right. And then by the time I'm done with the cheesecake, we should have our dip ready to show you guys. Okay. So let's do our cheesecake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the filling. Years ago, when I started making cheesecakes, I made them in the mixer and I hated it. I don't know, there's something about, trying to blend cream cheese in a mixer that unless it's really totally at room temperature, it doesn't work so well. So I have a tendency to, use a food processor to mix my cheesecake fillings, and I have found that that is really the way to go. So I'm going to bring up this giant food processor, guys. I think, can you guys see this? Okay, I can't see it, so I want to make sure that you guys can. Okay, so in my food processor, all right, we are going to put, now again, remember the recipe I'm making right now is only for half. So if you want to make an 8-inch spring form, you're going to make it, total amount of the recipe. Okay, so I always tell people, do not pay attention to my amounts. All right, because they're not going to be the true amount. So I'm using my cream cheese. All right, we're going to throw that in. Make sure you get it all the way in. And then I am going to do some sugar. All right, so I've got some sugar. I'm going to throw that in too. All right, we're going to put an egg in here. I've got my egg. Now, when I am doing this in the food processor, I do not pay attention to, like some recipes will tell you to put the cream cheese in and then stop it and put in the eggs and stop it and put in the sugar. I put the whole thing all at once because I don't find a difference. And for me, it's just easier to do that than stopping your machine and scraping it down all the time. I just find this is an easier way to go about it, guys. So, you can do it the other way if you want, but I think, it works this way as well. I'm going to grab a spatula. Let's see. All right, and I have a little bit of flour here and some sour cream, okay? And the flour will help to bind the cheesecake a bit. And, the sour cream is going to give it a little more tartness, okay? And then I have a little bit of peppermint extract. And at this time of year, guys, I guarantee you're going to find peppermint extract in the grocery store. It's not hard. I'm just doing a half a teaspoon of this because I'm only doing one time half of the recipe. So that's a little too much. We'll do half a teaspoon. All right. And then we're going to do half a teaspoon of vanilla. I just like the way the vanilla tastes. I think it gives it that nice, rich kind of vanilla flavor. We're going to throw this in, a little bit of vanilla extract. Okay, that goes in as well. And then we're going to throw in a little bit of salt. For this amount of batter that I'm using, I'm just going to throw in a pinch. If you're doing the full recipe, you're going to throw in at least a quarter teaspoon, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I am going to process this. So what did I do with my top? Okay, so what we're going to do is put that top on and just process that. Now, it helps to keep your cream cheese at room temperature. So what I do before I go to bed the night before, I put it on my counter and let it come fully to room temperature. And then it cooperates with me a lot better, okay? I am going to scrape this down once just to get any sugar or anything that's kind of sticking to the sides, because sometimes that food processor will kind of kick it up on the sides of the bowl, all right? And we're going to pop that back up. All right. And we're good to go at this point. Now, I am going to take I have some chocolate chips. I have some white chocolate chips. And I have some peppermint pieces, okay? Just some crushed peppermint. So these are the crushed peppermint. You guys can see, I think you can see that. That's a minuscule amount, but I have a lot more here that we're going to use to decorate the top. Crushed peppermint. And now you can buy it. I think some kind of a producer actually puts them in the little packages that looks like, like the chocolate chip packages. You can buy them in the baking section. If you cannot find peppermint pieces, get some candy canes, put them in a Ziploc bag. Take your meat pounder if you have a meat pounder at home. If you don't have a meat pounder and maybe you have a rubber mallet, use your rubber mallet and pound away at it. Put, in the Ziploc bag, okay? And until you get the little tiny pieces, okay? So we're going to add all of this to this, all right? And you're going to say it's going to get ground up. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit, but it makes it a lot easier to mix it in, okay? So we're going to show you real quickly. And basically, that's it. It's mixed in at this point, okay? So now what I'm going to do, I want to show you how to do this. And I'm going to show you a little trick because I love this trick. I learned this trick a long, long time ago, and I love this trick. So we take the top off the food processor. We're going to take our springform pan, okay? And I'm going to move this guy. And I'm going to take the batter, the bulky portion of the batter, okay? Or whatever, that's in here. And what I'm going to do with the rest of this, because I hate battling the blade. I hate battling the blade. And I don't like to scrape it. I hate scraping this thing out. I'm going to put this back on my food processor, okay? We're going to put the lid back on. Can you guys see? Is it too close to the camera? Okay, good. 1 second. And I'm going to pull that blade out. It's going to be completely clean, okay? Because when you put it back in for just a second, it shoots everything to the side of the bowl, and you don't have to fight with the blade to try to scrape it off, okay? So that is one of my Christmas gift to you guys. It's one of my favorite tips on using a food processor, okay? I just love it because, so now when you process this too, you still have a little bit of the candy cane pieces, but you also have, the filling is a little pink. So you
That
get a
was
little bit of
awesome.
pink. Isn't it pretty? Yeah. Did you like that tip? Honestly, sometimes I don't even go after that little bit left because I don't want to fight with it, right? So yeah, I learned that a few years back, and man, I just love that. Just one more second in the bowl, and it really makes your life a lot easier. Okay. All right, so we're going to put this aside, and I'm just going to kind of smooth that batter out. Now, there's two options you have here. I'm going to move this guy too because I don't need him anymore. Oh my gosh, this thing is so heavy. Okay, you can either take this and bake this in a pan, just put it on top of a I don't know, like a sheet pan or something where in case this starts to leak a little bit, you're not going to make a mess in your oven. Now, I prefer to cook my cheesecake or bake my. I'm gonna slink by here 1 second, guys. I want to grab a piece of foil. What I typically do is I put a little piece of foil on the bottom like this. All right, and then I just kind of crimp that around. So in case there is some leaking, it's going to go in the foil and not in my, not on my oven floor. It's the worst thing in the world is when something drips on your oven floor. And then what do? You have to turn the oven off. Oh my God, it makes so much work. So I always do that. And I like to bake this in a water bath. And the reason being a water bath will make this a little bit more moist. It'll give it moisture. And sometimes if you get that crack in the middle of your cheesecake, it could be that you baked it and the oven was either too hot, you overbaked it, or you may have a problem with just having. I mean, your oven is a dry environment, and in order to kind of keep this moist a little bit, what I typically do, I take these disposable little pans, and this will fit an 8-inch cake as well. I take this and I put this right in my pan, just like this. Fill that to the midpoint, where the foil kind of stops, with hot water. Just get some hot water boiling. I'll fill that to the midpoint with hot water, and then I'm good to go. Okay. And then this bakes in the oven. A smaller one will maybe take a little bit less than an 8 inch. So this little one may take, oh, maybe, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes to bake. But you want the oven at 350. Okay. And then when you pull your cheesecake out, how do you know that it is done? And I think that is one of the biggest problems people have sometimes with a cheesecake, because most cakes, you expect them to be pretty firm. They're not going to shake. With a cheesecake, it should still jiggle. If I do this, it should jiggle a little bit, not quite as much as a bowl of Jello, but it'll jiggle enough that I can see that top actually moving. Okay. So you don't want to overbake a cheesecake because it will crack and it will dry up on you. You want it to still jiggle, because when you take it out, you're still going to refrigerate this thing for a good 4 hours before you serve it. So when, and that will, the refrigeration on the cheesecake will actually firm it up. Okay. So you don't have to worry about that. It will firm it up. So 30 minutes or so, 35 minutes for this little one, an hour for the 8-inch one that you have on your recipe, and that should do it. Okay. That goes in the oven. And then now what I'm going to show you is the one that I made earlier. Okay, so I made this one yesterday, and cheesecakes are a little difficult to make in a cooking class because you can't bake it and decorate the same one. You have to let the thing cool. Okay, so I don't know. I figure maybe we'll have this for, Christmas dinner or something. I don't know. We'll see. Freeze it. I love to freeze things like this, so it works beautifully. All right, so here is my cheesecake. Here's the top of it. Okay. And see, I have now there that a little bit of the butter did come out of the spring form. So you want to make sure that you are, you're have this, sealed up, or put it on a sheet pan or something where it will not drip. That is one of the worst things, guys, when they drip. Okay. So I'm going to release this. I'm going to actually, before I release it, I'm going to take a knife. Just a butter knife works. And I'm going to go around because now this is like really, it adheres to the sides. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead, and you might even want to take this out of your fridge for like at least an hour or so before you actually unmold it, because it may, you may have a problem unmolding it. It may, just because it's so cold, it may stick a little bit more. So you don't want that to happen. Okay. So I am going to unmold this guy. Say a prayer. All right, so here we go. We're unmolding our cheesecake. All right, that looks good. All right, and there I have my cheesecake. Now, if you want to take it off the springform pan, you can get yourself a spatula, nice, metal spatula, and you should get it between the crust and the pan and just let it release. So if I'm taking this to somebody's house, I don't want to leave them my springform pan, obviously, because I may need it again. So typically I would unmold it, but just to save my face and so nothing happens, I want to make sure this comes out nicely for you guys. Okay. So there is my cheesecake. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make a little ganache to put on top of our cheesecake. Okay. And what is ganache? Ganache is cream and chocolate. Simple. Really, really simple. All right. So I am going to take a little pot of heavy whipping cream. It's just some, regular heavy whipping cream. And we're going to heat this on top of the stove. Now, you don't have to heat this on top of the stove. You can heat it in your microwave. Put it in a measuring cup. Heat it in your microwave. That works too. So whatever whichever way you want to do it, okay? And I'm going to let that heat up. And I'm going to use some chocolate chips. Now, I tend to use chocolate chips sometimes just for a convenience factor. If you're doing this for some elegant dinner party and you want this to, really have that really nice chocolatey, rich chocolatey flavor, you could do it with, Calbo chocolate. You can do it with Ghirardelli, some other chocolate that's going to give you a little bit more pizzazz. I'm of the opinion that, it's my family. They like chocolate chips, so I'm good with it, guys. I hope you are too. So I use chocolate chips a lot for things. Your family eats those in chocolate chip cookies all the time. Why not, right? Right. I mean, and it's not the cost of it. Sometimes it's just the convenience. you know, the chocolate bars, you have to break them up and melt them or whatever. And the chocolate chips are just a little easier to use. So I'm going to get this cream really, really, really hot. Now, I don't want it to boil, but I do want it to be pretty hot. I'm going to excuse myself for 1 second. I'm going to go look at my dip, okay? Because I don't want it to get overcooked. Oh boy. Speaking of which, now this is drama, guys. I'm going to put this on the sheet pan so that I don't burn myself. But I want to show you this. This is absolutely beautiful. And you guys can see that it's bubbling like crazy. Oh my God. It just looks so good. And that panko topping, you know, I don't know, guys. It just looks really, really good to me. So we'll taste test that in just a minute when it's not so, you know, piping hot. And my cream is now um, getting hot. I always have this paranoia that the cream is going to go over the pot because it does for me a lot because I'm usually multitasking in my kitchen, guys. Sometimes I don't pay attention and oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll take away that loveliness for just a minute. We're going to put our cheesecake back here. Going to test this. Sometimes when things boil around the edges, they're not so hot in the middle. So be careful, you know, test it. Don't take this off the burner yet until you make sure that the whole thing is really hot. I've done that before and you know the middle stays cold. I don't know how that works, but you know it'll be hot around the edges and then the middle stays cold. So make sure the whole thing is hot. I'm going to take my chocolate chips right now. Do you guys see this? Can you guys see that? Am I too far away? Okay, cool. We're going to pour my chocolate chips in here and we're going to just melt those. Now they're going to take a minute, make it look like what I want it to look like, okay? I'm going to move this again. It's easier for me to stir this. All right, so I'm going to stir this really hot. And this will start to kind of, you know, come together in just a minute. As soon as I start melting all these chocolate chips, they'll all melt right into the cream. And then you'll see that ganache is basically it's what you use to make truffles. If you ever make truffles on your own, that's what you use to make truffles. So you know, ganache is kind of a simple thing, but oh my gosh, it's delicious. So we're just gonna keep stirring. Don't get discouraged that this isn't, you know, getting thicker or it's not melting. It just takes a minute. All right. There you go. Now I think you see that difference in color even. All right, where it's getting that nice black, real chocolatey color. All right, I just hope that it gets a little thicker for me. But we'll make it work, guys, one way or the other. We always do. This is kind of the name of the game. All right, I'm going to make sure that all that chocolate is melted. I don't want any pieces of chocolate in there. All right, now what I'm going to do for just a minute is I'm going to transfer these to a little bowl. If I have any little bowls left, and transfer it to this measuring cup and just pop it in my freezer for a minute, okay, to let this kind of congeal for a minute. All right. Let this get a little thicker. It's thickening up, but it's really hot right now too. So I'm just going to throw it in my freezer for just a minute to let this cool. All right. We want to do this right. All right. So let me pop this in the freezer. Hopefully it will chill up a minute and then we can go ahead and use it. Probably put it outside, it'll be colder right now, right? Put it out in the snow and the ice. So let's take a look at our dip. I'll make sure this oven top isn't too hot. let's serve our dip and show you guys how to do that. What I would do with the dip, I toasted some croutons. So what I have are just some toasts that I cut into, like a nice baguette. And then I put them on a sheet pan. I put a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of salt. And then I baked them for about 10 minutes till they got that nice golden brown look. Okay. Now for this, these are a little bit of a bigger crouton. So what I'm going to do is actually pull this out here just to show you how to serve this guy. Uh, what I would do is I would just put these toasts right around the outside of that, okay? So that you have all these beautiful toasts just kind of rimming the outside. So it'll let your guests know that all they have to do is pick one up and dip it. You know what I mean? So it works beautifully for this. I mean, you want those to be nice and golden brown. That's so do this all the way around, okay, just like this. And then that'll work perfectly for you. You guys see that? Okay, there's our dip. And I have to taste it. I'm sorry. You're supposed to taste your food that you make. So I have to taste this, guys. Oh, my gosh. It is so good. And you know what? I kind of like it better than stuffed mushrooms because it isn't, with a stuffed mushroom, you just get a little bit of that filling and all of it is mushroom. For me, I love this part of it because it's a lot more filling, so to me, it's a win-win. All right, take a look at this. Even if this is a little soupy, I'm going to still use it. I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, and then I'm just going to, it has gotten a little bit thicker, so we're good. All right. So if it's not real thick for you, whoa, put it in the refrigerator or your freezer for a few minutes and it will chill down enough that you can actually pour it and use it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some on top. And I'm going to use my little, this is a perfect stocking stuffer for any cook in your family. This is probably one of my favorite gadgets in the kitchen. It's an offset spatula. And what it does, it doesn't interfere with a lip on a pan or on anything. It just is perfect to pour things on and spread them evenly. And I don't mind if this drips a little bit down the sides. I kind of like that look. So I'm good with dripping down the sides, guys. We'll let that drip. Okay, make a mess. Gonna make a big, big mess, but it's okay. Then what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna make a really big mess. I'll turn that mess to my side. Is I'm gonna take some of those candy cane, crushed candy cane, and we're gonna sprinkle that right on top. All right. So there is my peppermint cheesecake. If you had some chocolate pieces, you could actually take some chocolate pieces and sprinkle them as well, on top. But I think we've got enough chocolate with that ganache. I don't really think I need more. So I'm going to cut this so you guys see what this looks like on the inside. It isn't fair that I'm the one who gets to see what it looks like, okay? So let's take a piece of it. And I have to grab my plate here. So let's cut a piece. If you have trouble cutting a cheesecake, the best way to do it is get yourself a wet towel so that you can kind of wipe your knife in between slices. There is my chocolate peppermint cheesecake, guys. Oh, that tastes so good. Sorry, I had to taste that. It's so good. There it is, guys. So there is the chocolate peppermint cheesecake. And I bet you it's delicious. So I'm gonna try it. Let me try it. Why not, right? Yeah, let's try it. All right. And what I like about it is it's not way too pepperminty. It's just a subtle peppermint, not like in your face kind of peppermint flavor. I don't know if I'd like that much, but there is your cake and there is your dip. All right. So we'll put both here. I'll be surprised if I don't lose something tonight on the floor. I don't know.
Oh my God, it all looks so wonderful.
Good. Thank you guys.
You have a comment. So one of the participants says, so you make the dip the day prior, assemble and refrigerated without the panko topping? That's what she's
Correct.
asking. Okay.
Correct. I'd make the panko. Leave it in a covered container in your fridge, or you don't even have to keep it in the fridge. Just keep it on your counter. And then pop it on right before you serve it. You
Yep.
can make this you can make this a week ahead. Freeze it.
Oh,
And
perfect.
when you're
Perfect.
when, yeah, when you're gonna serve it, don't even bring it out and thaw it. Just put it in the oven frozen. It'll take about, I'd say 25 to 30 minutes, but then it'll come out perfectly, just like this, guys. You won't have a problem with it.
Okay. And one of
Okay.
the people are asking, they need a new food processor. Which one do you recommend?
Oh my goodness. I have probably owned, I don't know, 4 or 5 food processors in my lifetime. I really like the Cuisinart. That's the one that I've always owned, although I have used the KitchenAid a lot in different cooking establishments and as in classes. And I like that one too. They're very, very similar to each other. And what I suggest is that you figure out what size you need. If you do doughs and things like that, you're going to want a 14 cup or something because you want that extra room. I'm not a big fan of the ones that have bowls that nest, that has one bowl that's really small. It's just a lot of parts and pieces that make life a little bit more difficult. I like the
Yeah,
one that has,
storing it.
right, right. And then what I have is actually have a little mini food processor for when I'm doing smaller portions, and I think that works just as well. You don't have to worry about that, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, Cuisinart or KitchenAid, either one, they both are really, really good.
Okay. And you said a good stocking stuffer, offset spatula.
Correct. For
Okay, I
somebody
just
who
want to make
likes
sure
to
I had the
cook.
right name.
Yeah, I use it for spreads. I use it to spread things. If, if you see what I'm doing here, when I spread this, that little bend allows me to spread this evenly. You can't do that with a knife, okay?
Right.
So it is for savory cooking, for sweet cooking. This is a really great gadget, and I think they're like $10. They're not expensive. So they're a great little stocking stuffer for anybody who likes to cook. And you know what? They may look at it at first and say, "Wow," but this will be the thing that they'll use a lot in the kitchen. I guarantee it. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. Okay. If anybody has any questions for Mary, go ahead and unmute yourself. You can ask her anything you want. Oh, people want to know where the recipes are. Recipes are on the library's website and on our Facebook page. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, those were the two questions I got. Okay, if anybody else have any questions? Uh, oh, there, thank you very much.
Again, if anybody has any questions on how to cook certain things for the holidays, this is the time to ask, guys. I've cooked everything from prime rib to fish for the holidays. So ask away if you have a question.
Yeah, they're all saying it looks delicious and thank you.
You're
Somebody
welcome.
says, what's a foolproof way to prepare spiced nuts?
To repair or prepare?
Prepare.
Prepare spiced nuts. So basically, I have done a recipe for spiced nuts for a long time, and it's butter and it's brown sugar, and then I add whatever spices I want to it, like and I also add a little bit of egg white. I kind of whisk a little egg white in there. You can find recipes on the internet. The egg white helps that whole mixture kind of stick to the nuts, and so that the butter and the sugar don't fall off. And you have to kind of cook the mixture to a certain degree so that it kind of becomes not. You want the sugar to dissolve, obviously, and whatever spices you want. You could do, like pumpkin pie spice. You can do anything. I mean, I've done savory where it's like rosemary and things like that. So, the world is your oyster as far as that's concerned. And, just look up a recipe on the internet that, is a good one for and you want to make sure that whatever recipe you choose that it will have something in there that will bind it to the nut. Okay. Otherwise it will tend to fall off.
Okay. And
Thank
one
you.
other one asks, talk about your prime rib roasting recipe.
Ah, good. That's a good one. So what I do is I take an onion and I take garlic and I take olive oil and fresh rosemary and I put it in my food processor and I make a paste out of it. Okay. Just puree
Mhm.
the heck out of them and make a paste. Once that's done, I spread it all over the top of my prime rib. And I do what's called a reverse sear, kind of well in a different, yeah, kind of in a different way, a reverse sear. I get my oven as hot as I can get it, 500 degrees, and I will put the roast in the oven for like about an hour, depending on the size of the roast. And I keep looking at it, making sure that it's not burning or anything, and it will get really super brown on the outside. Once it's super brown on the outside, I then take it and turn the oven down to about 350, 320. You can do 325 and let it cook the rest of the way. And it really depends on how. I don't use a big roast because I find it's harder to cook it so that everybody gets the doneness that they like. So I typically, if I'm going to make it for a lot of, I'll do two smaller roasts. That way I know that I've got like two weller done ends, and then the inside is maybe something that's medium well, medium rare, or something to that extent. And then I roast it in the oven for another 2 hours or something at a lower, very low temperature to get it done, and then use a meat thermometer to pull it out to see what doneness you want.
Okay, that was the next question. She said, do you use an internal thermometer?
I use a digital. I have one of these guys. I just use one of these. It's by ThermoWorks. This is another really good Christmas gift
Christmas
for
gift.
somebody.
My son-in-law
Yeah,
has.
totally, guys. And basically, it registers as soon as you put it in the meat. So as soon as you insert it, never put it near a bone. Okay, it has to go in meat. So if you've got a prime rib with a bone on, keep it. I always put it on the end so that the prime rib is sitting there, and you put it right through the end towards the middle, right to the middle, and then whatever it registers. I typically take mine out at about 123 or so because it will climb a bit once you've taken it out. So always take it out for, before you hit that optimal temperature. Otherwise, you're going to overcook it. It will always climb when you pull it out because that internal heat is still working in there to cook it. So,
Oh,
pull it out before it's done.
okay, wait, there's a few more questions here. Uh, what ribs do you all, wait, well, I'm not sure what she's saying, but it's what ribs do you all for? So I'm not positive of that. Trudy asks,
Oh, how many bones, maybe? How many bone prime rib? I typically,
maybe.
yeah, a 3 bone. That's kind of my limit. I just find that if I do a 5 or 6 or 7 bone, it's so big that you tend to overcook the ends of it, and then the middle of it, it's either way too rare or whatever. So just for my peace of mind, I typically just do a 3 bone. Maybe the most I've ever done is a 4 bone. Just to, I like the presentation of it, but I just find that it's a little bit more foolproof to cook it that way. I love
Okay,
the way that a 7 bone looks on your platter on the dining room table, guys, but sometimes if it's not done right, that presentation isn't going to do anything, right? You want it to
right.
taste good too, right?
Yep. Trudy asks, I've made beef Wellington. I would like to try salmon Wellington. Do I need to pre-cook the salmon?
No, because salmon will cook. You're not going to get a sear on it, obviously, but the problem with salmon, if you try to sear it, you're gonna start cooking it, and then when you put it in the dough, by the time the dough is cooked, the salmon is going to be way overcooked. So start with raw salmon. Just put the salmon in the way you bought it, season it, put it in the dough because you want the dough and the salmon to cook at the same rate. If you're using puff pastry, that's going to be about maybe 15, 17 minutes to cook that puff pastry. And then to cook the salmon, it's going to be the same amount of time. If you pre-cook it and you saute the salmon and get it brown, it's going to be way overcooked by the time the puff pastry is done. Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
just for me, it's a trade-off. It's like brown salmon or good salmon that's not overcooked, and I prefer good salmon. Yeah.
Sure. Another one asks, ideal size roast, 5 pound.
For a
Preference.
prime rib.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 5, 6 pounds. I go by the bone. So for me, I can get like if I'm doing a 4 bone, I can feed, oh, let me think. I can feed at least 10 to 12 people with a 4 bone prime rib. Depending on what kind of slices you give them. You want to give them thinner slices, then you can get a lot more out of it. If you give them thicker, like at a prime rib restaurant, those really big thick things, you may have to have a bigger prime rib because you're gonna be cutting them thicker and it's not going to go as far. I typically go by, it's typically 10 people per 4 pound prime rib roast. That's typically how much I get out of it. I'm
Okay.
thinking it's about 5 to 6 pounds, something like this, 7 pounds, something like that.
Okay. All right. I think I've gotten all the questions. She already answered the one about the prime rib roast and 3, 4, 5. So anybody else? Nope. I think that's, yep, I think that's it. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much, Mary, for sticking around and answering a few questions. I hope you have
Nope.
a Merry Christmas and we'll
Merry
see you soon because
Christmas.
we have you booked. Is it February or March? We have other, no, hold on. Let me tell you when the other one is. I know we have another one booked. Oh, Mardi Gras. Yep,
Yes.
February 10th. She's gonna,
Yes. Yes.
yes,
That'd be fun.
yes. And our new director is from Louisiana. So
Oh,
she probably
wow.
will have some great ideas. Oh,
Wonderful. Oh, that sounds good.
okay.
Thank you,
Oh,
everybody. I hope everybody has a happy holiday.
do you ask the butcher for any specific bone? Which bones they're
I,
asking?
well, you know what? I think that normally when you buy a prime rib these days, the chine bone is going to be taken out, which is the bone that's hard to cut out. Okay, that's on the back of the prime rib. Typically, when you buy it these days, it's going to be removed. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. But when I cook it to slice it, I usually cut the bone. Like, say this is the prime rib, this is the bone on the back of it. I will, and here's the meat part. Okay, and that bone is sticking up. I'll take my knife and just slice the bone so that it's all the way down to the bottom where until you can't slice anymore. And that way you can still give them pieces with the bone on, but you can also slice it nicely and evenly without having that bone interfere with the slices. So I just take it along the bone, I just slide my knife all the way down and it cuts it right off. So there really isn't like a kind of bone. It's just, you want to make sure if you go to a butcher that they take the chine bone off. And typically now that when they sell them, they usually do.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary. We will see you in
Thank you.
February. Have a Merry
Thank,
Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy New Year, everyone.